5 years, 9 surgeries, Bell's palsy, sarcoidosis, 254 pounds, oral chemo, prednisone, all these other meds too, and medical retirement at 20 years and 8 months. Be prepared for the answer, because I would not know you right now if that didn't happen.
Hello, and welcome to Find Your Fuel, the podcast where we bring you stories from women who've overcome different physical, mental, and emotional struggles and found the fuel to live their best lives. I'm your host, Erin Martin, and if you have experienced trauma, felt dismissed by the medical system, or found yourself thinking about your purpose in life, this episode is for you. We have the amazing guest, Malaysia Harrell, joining us, who has an incredible story. She's faced the gauntlet of mental, physical, and emotional struggles, from navigating childhood trauma, achieving incredible military success, to enduring a near-death experience and 9 surgeries during her recovery. She's a licensed psychotherapist, veteran, spiritual transformation coach, author, and CEO of Blissful Life Consulting. And today you'll hear the steps she took to transform her trauma into a powerful calling centered on helping other high-achieving women find their own freedom and fulfillment.
What I find is when we don't share our stories is when we struggle, because why else did you go through this? Just to go through it? No, there's a reason for it. And so I find that when I don't do it, I find myself struggling. And so again, my story's not for me. It's not for me. It's for the people who need to hear it in order to find their own voice and to get through their own, valleys.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of, I think it was Brene Brown who said, your story is someone else's lifeline.
Yes,
And when you think of it that way, how can you not
how
share
can
and
you
extend a
not?
lifeline?
How can you not? When I was not able to get out of bed, guess what? I was listening to other people. So when someone else can't get out of that bed, they're going to be listening potentially. Again, if it's for them and it's aligned, then they will, but it will save a life.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I know you have such an amazing story. So I was thinking we could start with your story and dive in to hear the incredible life and experiences that you've lived, and then go from there in terms of where you're at now.
Okay, absolutely. So, like many women, especially women, I've, wore this mask of success, what society would deem as successful, right? All the outside things. And because I had come up in an impoverished area with a lot of trauma, okay, a lot of trauma. And so I learned at a very young age that, I could be successful in school and get accolades and get awards and be in all these programs. So that was my form of love, right? I got this validation from getting certificates and being in every gifted child program and things like that. And so that became, you know, my way of coping and experiencing the world. That is something that I could control. I couldn't control what happened to me, but I could control how I perceive the world. And I knew that I could be successful in anything that I did, right? I'm going to work hard. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to have 2 and 3 jobs starting as a teenager. Okay. And so it wasn't until, again, going to school, did very well, worked in corrections, started as a correctional officer after undergrad. I did a couple other jobs too, but decided, I wanted to see what my life purpose was. So I'm like, oh, I'll do prison reform, right? I wanted, because I had went through so much trauma, I wanted to understand the minds of people, and make sure that they were rehabilitated, before they get out. And so I started my master's of social work program while I was doing that. Again, always 2 and 3 jobs, like not just one thing. And so, of course, I ended up I got engaged, and my ex, he had moved to Maryland for a job and so asked me to marry him. So I went down there and I switched schools. So, I finished up at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. And guess what happened in 2001 when I was in school?
Yep, the moment that everybody remembers exactly where they
Forever,
were.
forever. Everybody know exactly where they were on 9/11. And so that day, because at the time I was about to graduate from school, but I was like, I wanted to go in the FBI and do criminal profiling. So I wanted forensics because I had done, well, I ended up doing child welfare after that, but I was in the Baltimore Public Defender's office. That was my internship. And so that day I said, I'm going into the military. Now, the military wasn't new to me. I was in junior ROTC in high school. So I already had this affinity for patriotism, for being a servant leader. I used to always volunteer, do all these things. I always wanted to give back because I remember when I didn't have anything. And I remember there were people who helped us, right? Catholic charities, standing in line, for food and all of that stuff. And so I always wanted to be a person that gave back. And so that day I decided, now I didn't get in the military right away because you had to be independently licensed clinical social worker. And so I waited a year. I did child welfare, the intensive unit for fatalities, for child fatalities and serious injuries. I don't know why I had the craziest jobs. When I worked corrections, I ended up getting promoted in a very short period of time after 9 months, the day my probation was up. And I worked on death row as a counselor. So
Oh boy.
I always was very attracted to these very dark type of jobs. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was like, I guess I was trying to figure out how to help the world to be a safer place. I think that was my premise. But now I think about it like, what type of jobs did I do? And so I did that for a year, and then I got into the residency program, which was highly competitive. They only picked 9 people in the whole country to go into the residency program for social work. So I did. I said, I can do both things. I could be successful in the military and I could serve and I could do my clinical work. So I did. And of course, I did. I was a superstar. I went in the Air Force, got a lot of awards, high level awards too, like Air Force level awards. And I'm brand new in the Air Force. Like, just craziness. I had to win. I had to, look good. That was my love. That was what I thought was love. And so, again, it wasn't about me, but it was like, when I think about it now, I'm not sure I ever really felt happy. Like, I got it. You got the award, you put it on a shelf. You got a medal, you put it on here, stay on here. You don't even know what all the medals mean. You have so many medals. And so it wasn't until so I ended up transferring into the United States Public Health Service, and I did very well there too. I was a special assistant to the Surgeon General. I was the director of addictions medicine for Department of Defense, working with the White House. I can name off every award, every speaking engagement. Oh man. Okay.
And when did
Okay.
you
Work.
realize this about yourself too? And even the childhood trauma piece, it's one of those things where I think as women, even to today, we don't unpack so much and have the self-awareness. So when did that hit you and you came to that realization of knowing like you are now of why you were doing what you were doing? What was the driver behind that? And,
Yeah.
all that sources of validation that you were
Yeah.
looking for.
Well, thank you for asking that question because it wasn't until, okay, so 2019, I got promoted to '06. That's either, depending on the service that you're in. I wore Navy ranks. It was a captain/colonel. If I was still in the Air Force, it would be a colonel. Do you know the percentage of people that actually make colonel? And by the way, a woman of color, 0.00, you know what I mean? Compared
Yeah.
to when I made it, Aaron, I thought, oh my goodness, I have to call my Nana. Well, my Nana, who raised me because I was removed from my mom's house, she was no longer here. But I didn't, again, it was like she believed in me when I got the job for the Surgeon General. So it was that day that it was like, what am I going to do now? I had gotten married in 2016, the year she passed. I had the house. We didn't have a wedding. We got the house of our dreams. We had our cars. And I made the rank that I've worked so hard, killing myself to make, doing things that I didn't want to do. And I don't feel happy. Wow.
Mm.
What? So then I started asking questions to the divine, to God, like, okay, what do you have for me? And Aaron, sometimes we ask these questions and it's like, are you really prepared for the answer? Do you really want to ask? You've been asking this question. You already know the answer. So I asked that question. That's 2019. We're going to bring it up to 2020 at a COVID deployed to the Navajo Nation. I'm their lead behavioral health provider for the whole, you know what I mean, for that whole reservation, for that area, for the lead for the incident command response team, and the sole behavioral health provider for 2 medical centers. Me? I get there, they're dying in droves. It's one of the most reddest zones in the country.
Wow.
Is this a joke? I'm here to do what now? What am I going to tell them about resilience? What am I going to, like, for real? So I almost, there was this awakening that was happening because number one, it was traumatic. There was a lot of trauma going on, and I can't even talk about all the stuff. I was living in a twilight zone because I believed that the world was this certain way. And when I saw that there was some other stuff going on, I was exposed. Y'all not using me as a pawn for this mess.
Mhm.
And come out here, I'm the captain coming in here. What? I'm seeing what's going on out there. Oh, again, still, I got this. Anywhere I'm having fun, I'm trying to, keep myself together. So I leave. I'm having acute stress reaction because I can't understand what's going on. It was like this spiritual experience that was happening, and I couldn't understand it. I just knew it was dark. So a couple weeks later, I'm working out. That's all I know to do. Like, okay, I've been a mental health provider. Let me get this trauma off me.
Mhm.
Well, that didn't work because I started having pain in my left hip. And one night I get up and I can't walk. I'm in extreme pain. Did I turn over to wake up my Army Ranger retired husband, airborne, that could help me go to the bathroom? No, I got this. I crawled to the bathroom.
Oh, man.
I crawled in pain. I'm talking unlivable pain. Get in the bathroom, I can't get up. I'm crying on the middle of the floor. He come in
Still
there.
not asking for help.
Still, I've been doing this since I was a kid. I had to help raise my sisters. If it wasn't for me, we would have all been in foster care. I was the one keeping it together, keeping the whole family together. So this is what I do. This is what I know. It's not bragging. It's very sad, to be honest with you. But I'm
You're
not
in
feeling
survival
good.
mode.
Fight or flight. That's all I know. You don't
Mhm.
even know what peace is, right? But I ain't alone. That's why I'm telling the story. Because there's so many women. You married that person who you knew you shouldn't marry because your family thought that you should marry that person, or society deems that this is a nice person because they have this job and this, level of expertise in the community or leadership. And you're completely miserable inside. You took this job doing this career that takes away every sense of joy from you, and you're completely miserable. And now you're getting sick. You don't understand why you're having these headaches, fibromyalgia, cancer, whatever it is, right? And so trying to keep up with everybody want for you, how they see you, because that's the way that's helped them. All right. And so it wasn't until finally I had to go back and forth to the hospital, get to Walter Reed Medical Center. Again, they had sent me to that deployment by myself as a mental health provider, the sole mental health provider by myself. That was traumatic enough. You should never leave no man behind. That's what they say, right? So I get in the hospital. Okay, I've treated thousands of people at this point. I'm almost 20 years in. They're going to find out what's wrong with me. They're going to help me. Now it's my time to ask for help. They come in there 4 days later doing all these tests, giving me the highest level pain meds, and still, I was still in pain. The pain meds did not work. That's how you know it's time to transition. So I knew I was transitioning. I was making amends with God. I was making amends with family, friends. My friend was in Afghanistan. Okay. And day 4 comes. They come in, Captain Harrell, we can't find anything. We're sending you home today. And by the way, we're sending in the psychiatrist because you just got back home from deployment. So, yeah.
Oh, boy. I'm on
So
my
at this
deathbed.
point, I was like, okay, maybe I am I imagining this? You know how you, like, in your head, cuz I was like, if I could just turn it off then. Like, I'm a mental health provider. Is this a somatic symptom? Am I imagining? Cuz somatic pain is real, right? You believe that whether it's real or not, some people don't believe fibromyalgia is real. So I'm like, I had to be a mental health provider because I knew they were going to put me on the mental health side and I was going to die. I knew it because they were going to not treat me medically anymore. They were, you know what I mean? And even seeing how some of the residents treated me like I was drug seeking. And there's so many
Mm.
research around women of color and, not administering pay or people of color in general, not administering pain meds and stuff like we're drug seeking. I'm stellar. I'm a highly decorated officer in the United States Public Health Service. Are you kidding me right now? You think I want to be here? So I said, well, you could euthanize me. Get the paperwork. None of y'all would be able to deal with this pain. Let's go. I had a great life. I had a great life. Let's do this. So they ended up taking a sample of my hip. Shouldn't you have did that day one? Okay. And they come back in running in the room. Maybe 20, 30 minutes later, everybody running in the room. Oh my goodness. We got to get her into surgery. My husband, right? This man starting to like tears coming down. What saved my baby? What's going on? I told y'all what was going on. Y'all didn't listen. I had sepsis.
Oh my gosh.
Sepsis.
Yeah, you were near death
I
then.
was gone. I was out of here. Right? Actually, my grandmother who passed, she came into me in my dream a couple weeks before I started having the pain. And she told me it was time to come with her. She didn't audibly speak, but you know how you get the message? So she was with me, she was present, and she said, it's time for me to come. And I'm like, cool. I actually didn't tell anybody. But I didn't correlate it when when I was in the hospital. I didn't put it together at that time. It was a long time later. So ultimately, long story short, 5 years, 9 surgeries, Bell's palsy, sarcoidosis, 254 pounds, chemo, prednisone, all these other meds too,
Holy cow.
and medical retirement at 20 years and 8 months.
Was your
When
past
you
5
ask
years.
the question, be prepared for the answer, because I would not know you right now if that didn't happen.
That is an incredible story. And so you're going to have to break down a lot of that. After you got diagnosed with sepsis, then where did you go from there? I mean, after you could kind of come out, not be in so much pain, you have a life that you didn't think that you were going to have anymore. So where did you go from there, mentally, physically, emotionally?
I would say deep darkness, because all of the traumas that I had nicely boxed up and labeled in the closet, I didn't want to deal with those. I didn't have that life. I was Captain Harrell. I wasn't. And then when I
Mm.
was in Air Force, I was a different captain, Gresham. I didn't acknowledge that life. No one knew me, who I really was and where I came from. Right. And so all those traumas came out. You know what I thought, Aaron? I thought one day I'd sit down when I retired and maybe just like go and cry at a retreat. You know what I mean? Like just kind of get it all out and do what I did. I didn't know all those years of trauma. And then, of course, the trauma of being in the military, a lot of things that happen, a lot of things. And it was like it was this threshold that had been met of trauma. And my body said, I mean, I believe I got infected at the deployment though. Because I was taking baths every day. It was the height of COVID. They didn't have immunizations. They didn't have prophylactics. They didn't even send me there with masks, to be honest with you. I had to get my own.
Mm.
Um, just the experience alone. So I was in deep darkness. Again, I didn't want to live like that. I'm done with all that. Like I had a good life. I'm fine being out of here, right? And so I had to fight. There were days that I was just in the bed for weeks and didn't get up. My husband bringing me food in the room. Because, again, I had so many surgeries and I couldn't walk. I got both hips replaced, not that same day, but I had 2 surgeries back to back that week, that day, and I had it 2 days later because they thought they could irrigate it, but it had already went in my system. They had to go in and cut the bone out and put a spacer in, and I couldn't get the new hip. So I had 3 major surgeries back to back, hair falling out, going back to the doctors, you telling me, "Oh, it's just stress," and you like badgering me saying that I had braids in my hair when I was a child. And you know what I mean? Not acknowledging. Like it was all this gaslighting, this medical gaslighting. And I'm not here, like I had a lot of anger. I will say that. And I don't think I could heal in that anger. And I'm not here to bash anyone because ultimately my life was saved. There were people that took care of me in that medical facility. And that's the reason why I'm here today. The reason why I talk about it, though, is because you know who you are and you know how to advocate for your own self. It doesn't just happen to people that look like me. It happens. So I started meeting all these women of all nationalities. That happened to me too. They just think women are emotional and they just think you need to go to mental health. So it wasn't just, I knew still some of the stuff with being a person of color, but also it's everybody. All women in general. Like people don't believe you when you go in there. And so I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, maybe there's something here. And then maybe there's something to the women who experienced trauma as a child who are now experiencing these things as an adult because this is the only life you knew. How are you going to get through that? How are you, I think of people, billionaires who've taken their lives, men
Mm.
and women. And so it's like, and then being a veteran too, maybe there's a reason, maybe I need to talk about how I got through that darkness. And so that's what I do now. That's why I'm here. Otherwise, again, I could be sipping a colada somewhere. I mean, I don't drink alcohol, virgin, but, so it forced me to take accountability for my own life and my health. If I would have relied on all of the meds, I would not be here because my kidneys would have shut down.
Mm.
But also getting in alignment and really asking for divine guidance. I think that was the biggest thing for me because I really had a conversation with God and I said, I can't live like this and I won't live like this. What do I need to do to be obedient to my calling to basically, get back in the game, get in your good grade, like figure out what my assignment is? And it was this. What I'm doing with you, that's part of it. Right now, speaking all over the world. I don't have to be, I could have I'm becoming a spokesperson for this Invisible Disabilities, the HD Sunflower organization now to talk about, because again, isn't it kind of embarrassing when you had this life and you were all over these platforms and you struggle with some medical conditions sometimes and you don't want people to know you can put on makeup and put on your hair and put on your outfits and look cute, but that's not authentic because I can't say, she's healed. All I did was this, and you need to read my book, and you're gonna be healed too. This is a
Mhm.
lifelong journey. I
Ain't
can't
that
I
the
can't
truth?
even play like that. I'm good now. I lost the weight. What? You still going through this thing because there's different level. When there's an assignment and a calling on your life, you have to become that. I'm not that yet. I've seen her in dreams and meditations. I've seen her, but I'm not her yet because I had, in order for me to become her, to do that big assignment, I have to be prepared and ready. I could, if I did it now, I'd be like, oh, this is too much. And I look at Tabitha Brown and people like that, Brene Brown, all these people we were talking about, right? Who dealt with their own stuff and they had to deal with that. Tabitha Brown, she said, I was sick. I was Uber. I couldn't work, right? I can't work a regular job. I'll be back in the hospital tomorrow for real if I try to do that. But
Mm.
I can experience the world the way I need to experience it, and I can have a even bigger impact and I could have an even bigger impact, right? And not kill myself doing the stuff that I was doing life how I did it before. And I could
Mm.
have an even bigger impact than what I did before wearing that uniform.
In a more authentic to yourself way, living into your purpose, yeah.
That's when you're free. That's the secret.
Mm.
Oh, I'm not gonna make money. I can't leave this job. I need to pay for this house. That house gonna be here whether you here or not.
Amen. And
And
for you
sometime it'll
was
be taken from you.
yep,
How many people in Los Angeles lost these big mansions out there, right? I'm not saying like, oh, 1 + 1 = 2. So please don't take that literally. I mean, into the world, right?
yeah.
But I'm just saying some things happen in order to get us in alignment with our divine assignment. I will say that. It's not always pretty. It's not going to be how in this beautiful Tiffany box and bag. It might come in a paper bag, but there's going to be a good nourishing sandwich in there.
And so for you, was it taking that first step to open up for those opportunities, sharing your story, and being open to being curious and asking the questions on this path then? Because
Yeah.
it seems like you have such mental and emotional resilience to also be in a mind space that was positive when dealing with so many physical surgeries and things to overcome.
Yeah.
So what was your thought process behind all of that?
I wasn't. I'm going to be quite honest with you. At first, it was about me. For me. Look what they did to me. When I first, and so my book was been supposed to be out. I'm going to tell you right now. My book is coming out the end of the year. It was been supposed to be out. When I first wrote that book, it was about, I wanted you to know what happened to me. This highly decorated officer that was taken down, as opposed to a person that had to transform in order to walk in her divine calling, to
Mm.
now maybe even living the life of her dream.
Mhm.
I'm here and you're there. And we're talking across the world on a podcast that's going to reach millions of people. How does that work? Some people are getting paid to speak, making what they would make for their monthly salary. Some people maybe annual, right? So when you surrender, and I had to get this tattoo on my arm that says the art of surrender. I don't know if
Oh,
you could really see it. I
yep.
had to get it because I got to remind myself again. People think, oh, you made it every day. Every day. Do I want to stay in bed some days? You have these migraines or whatever. I don't want to get up. And even on the days that I can't get up, I'll say, okay, if I can't do anything, can I just get on a couch? When I was in that hospital and after the initial surgeries, because I was in a hospital almost 2 months, I guess, month and a half to 2 months, because I had to go to rehab after that. I wore my own clothes in the hospital. So I would dress up during the day. I got my stylist to get my husband the clothes. She got me clothes that could, and I had my units on. You didn't even know I was in the hospital unless I told you. You can manifest, even though I'm in darkness, Aaron, I can imagine with the power of my imagination that I'm somewhere else. When I was in rehab, I said, put me in a library. I want to do a vision board. I made a
I
beautiful
love
vision
that.
board that I still have right now. It has a yacht on it and all this stuff because that's what I thought I wanted. But I wanted peace and joy and happiness. That's what I wanted. I wanted peace. I don't know if I ever had peace since I was a little girl. Can you imagine? And now I can be who I am, right? I can talk. Before I had to be so professional and hair, everything straight and perfect. Now I could talk.
Mhm.
I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts. I got a little, people might think New York sometime, depending on how they'd be like, where you from? Now I could be truly authentic. And you know what that does? It gives other women and people, human beings, permission to do the same thing. When we live
Mm.
in a world of us now, a more technological social media world where all that stuff ain't true.
I
All
think
that
there
stuff
is
ain't
a
true.
reckoning that happens, especially as women in midlife, when we realize we're closer to the grave, and even through an experience that could happen out of left field that makes you really reevaluate what brings you joy in life and what your purpose is. You ask those questions that you wish you would have been asking yourself in your 20s and 30s. It's not about the things and the experiences. It's about your purpose and how you give back and joy and all the things that you mentioned. And I think it's hard to grapple with. It's a very big question, especially we're in sometimes the rat race, motherhood, a million things going on. You don't exactly pause to think about these things, and some experiences force you to take that step to think about it, but you have to think about it.
Right. Well, you don't have to, but you're gonna be sat down too. It's gonna happen. You may not look. It's gonna be on. And I just said this to a client today. What do they say? A hard head makes what?
Ooh, I don't know.
A soft behind. A hard head makes a soft behind. So you may not do it now. You may not do it tomorrow, but it's gonna come.
Mhm.
Whether you like it or not. Something gonna happen, and sometimes it's too late. But when you talked about that shift, there was a movie made by Dr. Wayne Dyer before he passed, and it was called The Shift. For anybody
Mm.
watching this, watch that movie. It's like a documentary. It's so good. It talks about how, you more so are in the ego in the, beginning part of your life. So it's about the titles and the cars and the money. And then when have that shift in the latter part of your life, it's more about, giving back. What legacy are you leaving, right? Your purpose is so true. It's so true.
That's so good. And that's what often leads us to actually unpacking childhood traumas, whether
Yeah.
it's big T, little t, in that we realize that self awareness and truly understanding and finding yourself. Like, who is Aaron? Who is Malaysia? You need to find your authentic true self before you can live your authentic true self.
And I'll tell you, if you're worried about money, when you are living your authentic self, you just attract it. Even with stuff going on right now, like, I'm impacted by some of that stuff. I'm not, and I could be completely depressed. I could be completely spiraling. But what would that do for me? And my thing was this, especially for someone who needs a transformation, who wants to get out of darkness. I could either stay in this or I could look at what the possibilities are. If I'm already at rock bottom, I could just try it. I could go back in that closet and cry.
Mm.
But let me step out and try it. And so when I did that, listen to this. Of course, I had to have a medical retirement. And my retirement was a beautiful ceremony at the Army Navy Country Club. No, it's the Army Navy the beautiful. It's like they have weddings there. So it was like a wedding, Chivalry chairs. Like it was very nice. I did it because it was almost like my funeral. And I felt like that. I
Mm.
felt like I died that day. And I think I did. I think part of me did die. And it was more of a releasing, a spiritual releasing, which is grief. When you release a relationship, when you release a title, a job, something that, you're
That
seen
identity.
as your identity, it is, but it opens you up to so much more. So when I finally did it, 3 weeks later, I'm meeting with Howard Schultz and I have a picture with him. And so I was getting messages. Again, I call them tiny miracles. I used to have this segment on Instagram every Thursday. They're big miracles, but I just call them tiny miracles. You'll get little glimpses of hope, of light, right? And it'll be things like that to say, you thought you were doing something? No, you haven't even started yet.
And so what was the Howard Schultz meeting about?
So he works with a lot of organizations that support veterans. And
Mm.
so he was coming to DC for something and they arranged a meeting with us. So it was about maybe 6 people or so. And his publicist is sitting here, he's sitting here, I'm sitting here. And just listening, you know what, honestly, that did for me though? It wasn't just like, okay, meeting with a billionaire. But hearing his dream of going to Milan, seeing 100 coffee shops within such a small range, and just having this vision to say, I'm going to bring this back to the United States. We're going to do the same thing. And making 50 cold calls. I think he said 50 cold calls every single day. And so guess what, Aaron? It allowed me to think of what my real dream was, and my dream is crazy, but it's not a dream just for me. It's going to help a lot of people. I want to have this big resort, a healing resort, a luxury healing resort. So not just like, a spa, but a resort. And we have people, women from all walks of life all over the world who can commune together and come there and heal together. And now I have the Malaysia Harrell Foundation that we can provide these services and resources to veterans at either a reduced cost or maybe even free. And
I
we have
love
the
that.
people who can pay, who can come there. We have the Oprahs to come there. We have all the people, Brene Brown, we have all those people come. And then we have this foundation where we have a part of the resort where if you're a veteran woman and you can come there and you can get the resources that you need. And I see this as Disney, the Disney of spas, the Disney of resorts. You go to Disney, don't you? You've been to Disney. That's crazy
Yep,
that one
8-year-old
man could
Aaron
put
has.
that together. It's crazy that we're flying in a plane every other day. It's crazy. People must have thought he was crazy. And people are going to think I'm crazy, but it's going to
No, I
come.
love it. I personally have been to a woman's retreat, did it for the first time in my life this past year,
Yeah.
and we just never take 3 days, 4 days, a chunk of time away to just focus on ourselves. We've
Yes.
got, something happening over here that we're dealing with in a little slice of life, or we're working on this over here or that over there, and it's 2% of our day every day, but never a focus. And you can do so much work and figure out so much when you just book a chunk of time like that to focus on nothing but yourself. It was wildly transformational for me this year. This is probably why this podcast is here as well. And
Yeah.
so just that concept of the retreat and the resources that you need, I love it. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm hosting a retreat next week for veteran women and veteran spouses in the mountains in a luxury cabin. And we are going to just really take care of those women. They're gonna have such an amazing time. We had our welcome call last night, but I just love creating again, it's not about me, and I feel like I'm still serving because
Mhm.
no one is like all every one of them who are coming, they're all either mental health, like high, very high achieving, like multiple seven figures. Not everybody, but I'm just saying like they're very high achieving, six figures and up. They're all mental health providers or wellness coaches. Nobody helps the helper.
Mm.
Nobody. Not when it
Yep.
comes to women, like we don't like asking for help anyway. We gonna do it. What do they say when our spouses or our significant others, they don't do something? What do? I see all these videos on Instagram and women, pulling Christmas trees and the husband like, why you didn't, I'm gonna be home in a little while. Why you we got it. We always have it. But now and my book is called God Has My Six. Now we're going to have your six. We're going to have your back in military terms. The direction is by the clock. And so your 6 o'clock is your back. God has your back.
Mhm.
Now we got your six. The high achieving women who know, again, all ethnicities and creeds, all ethnicities. Okay. Now we got your six too. And you got all people from all walks of life who can now share their stories and come together in unity like we did in the military for the most part. It's not all rainbows. Some they put you in a pot and you got to make it work.
Uh-huh.
I love that. I want to do that same. I want to have retreats all over the world. I can't travel to Bali yet. You know what I mean? Like I can't sit that long with these hips. I got to figure out. Look, I need the bed. My husband's like, we not paying for no bed. We gonna figure it out. Somebody gonna pay for me to go. Okay. You know what I mean? Again, you got to make it work for you, but imagine doing learning about healing modalities in every country,
Mm.
right? And learning about your story of how people, like I did when I learned about, the native, like the real stuff, not the stuff you learned in the history books, but I got to learn about them personally. And for them to even
Mhm.
allow you in, again, you don't have to tell me your family history and your story. I want to know. I want to know about where you're from and, what are the dishes you eat? What is something new that we can learn? And maybe your grandmother used to make this concoction. They used to have something called salve back in the day that you put on your
Mhm.
skin. You didn't go to who had a dermatologist? They made everything from scratch.
Uh-huh.
The chicken soup, that bone broth. They made homemade chicken soup and you felt so much better. We ain't go to the doctors every day.
Yeah.
And now we the sick as we ever been. You
Mhm.
are responsible. God has given you the tools. You can heal yourself. I mean, in conjunction with West, because if I ain't take all them antibiotics, that's what made my hair fall out. If I didn't take and get the sarcoidosis, if I didn't take all that, I wouldn't be here. So I'm not
Mhm.
saying like I'm not in that. Like I'm not in that. But I'm telling you, if you continue one regiment only forever, your body gonna tell you something or not.
Yes.
You might be gone.
Yes, and that's one thing I did wanna pick your brain on because you made it through the surgeries, through the mental health and the trauma and processing it, like we talked about, not necessarily there because it's a journey, but what are some of your health go-tos today?
Ooh, I have so many. A lot of us are not connected with the divine for many reasons. And again, spirituality is not religion. So it's not like pushing one religion.
Mhm.
I am not into that. If I was born in another country, I'd be another religion, potentially.
Mm,
So I'm
mhm.
not into that, but I am into, again, allowing people to feel their connection with the divine, right? So it's not how I say to do it. Now we can expose you to different things, but it's up to you because a lot of people, I've met a lot of my clients are coaches as well. And a lot of people have church trauma. Like
Mm.
I knew there were a lot of mother wounds. Meeting so many women like that now. A lot of mother wounds. I'm actually doing a co-authorship book that I'll be leading next year to highlight the not just but of trauma, people who've turned their trauma into their purpose and they've gotten in alignment with their divine assignment. So that's what I want to highlight so other people can see. And then, of course, allow them to write their own stories. But people think writing a book is cute. It's not. Going
It's
down
hard.
memory lane, if you're doing a memoir and especially a teaching memoir, no ma'am. It is very
Mhm.
traumatic to go through those dark tunnels again. because now I have to experience it to tell the story. I
Yeah.
can't put my heart in it if I don't tell you about it. But journaling is very healthy. So now we're going to provide a platform for you to now work together in cohesiveness with a community so that we now give you all the tools. We'll be doing meditation and all of that stuff to get you through the tunnel when you have to write some of those parts and kind of experience them. So
Mm,
writing my story was very therapeutic and also creating. I feel like when we are in our creation mode, that is when we're closest to God. Cuz everybody say I
mm,
don't feel close. I don't feel God. What do you create that's only your gift that nobody else can do? That you can do with the least amount of effort and everybody else is struggling. What is that?
mhm.
When you are creating, so mine is a couple things. I love to decorate. So when I was sick, I redecorated half of my house. I didn't do it. I did it online. I did my Pinterest boards and my husband's like, "Don't you order one more thing." He put up this massive chandelier. He was so mad about it. Like he needed probably a team to put that thing up, and he did it himself, but it took him a long time. So I redecorated my space. That's what I started with. So I have a meditation prayer room. It's so beautiful. It's a glam room. I have it on my Instagram. So that's one, and also creating fragrance. Aromatherapy is
Mm,
one of the most. Again, these are things that are accessible. And again, if you don't have a lot of money, you don't have to buy all new stuff. You could either get rid of some of your stuff and buy and get some you can do an exchange. Like people are always throwing stuff away. You see Gary Vee talking about reselling and getting all this stuff. You don't have to go to, Neiman Marcus and buy a couch. You know what I mean? And you can also move stuff from one room to the other. I do that that's why my house is like all kind of one color. So I can just move stuff. It looks like a whole different room. You just move it from one room to the other. Again,
mhm.
purging what no longer serves you. When you're
Oh,
starting to
yes.
become obedient, right? You start with your closet. I got my closet completely redone. I threw out every piece of clothing that is not who I am today and not where I'm going. So if I wore some stuff in the past and it's not in alignment with my future, I no longer wear those clothes. All right. So it's a lot of purging. It's a lot of removing relationships that you've always been in. Maybe you've been with these people since you were in grade school, but you realize that when I talk with you, we only talk about things that make me feel sad. It's always drama. There's no change. There's no forward thinking, right? And so, I still have a lot of great friends that I absolutely love, right? But do you hang out with everybody every day? No. They're on their own journey of healing. So it's not like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm better now. And no, no, no. We're all in different levels of different places. Maybe I was that person who provided the drama, right? Because I took things well over what I was supposed to. My husband's like, you set up all this stuff and then you put the work on me. And I was killing him. You know what I mean? So now, if you try to be the neighborhood Mr. Rogers and put on all these events and you put it all on your family to do everything, that's not good either.
Mhm.
Can I instead of me doing a big soiree, could I just do a hot chocolate bar for the neighbors? What? How cool is that? With just everybody bring a couple snacks, you have a little Christmas cookie, maybe you have a decorating contest for the cookies, and they got the kits at Costco. Do we have to do all this stuff that you see it on social media? You paying 30,000 $30,000 for somebody to go to a prom and have a prom send off? What are we
Mhm.
doing?
Yeah. And I love that reframe because often we hear of purging relationships that don't serve you,
Yeah.
things that don't serve you. But the reframe is not purging what doesn't serve you, but purge what doesn't serve.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. It's not just, again, you and your ego, but reframing it.
Yeah.
And I think if you can evaluate kind of everything in your life through that lens,
Yeah.
it can completely transform your daily life,
Yeah.
which then transforms your life. There's so much power there.
There is. Oh, yes, I love that. I'm all for a good reframe. I teach that every day all day, cognitive reframe. Cognitive behavioral therapy for people, like, that is the best thing because it's how you process the world, is how you experience it. And so, if you're sad, you're experiencing the world that way. Will people think that you're
Mm.
crazy if you imagine and you talk about it? Maybe. I'm sure people think I'm gone when I talk about this retreat center and this, spa resort and all this kind of stuff. Will I have it? Maybe. Does it have to look like the way other people do it? No. Maybe there's already, and that's the thing. Sometimes we get nervous because it's like the assignment can feel very heavy. It can feel very scary. But maybe you have a resort that is already in existence and you're doing a partnership. Maybe you have the Malaysia Harrell Center that's part of theirs and you're not killing yourself doing, because it sounds crazy to put this together. I'm like, I'm trying to really retire. Right? So it doesn't have to look like how everybody thinks, "Oh, I want to be a coach. Let me get 1,000 certifications. Let me take everybody's class." You got experience, don't you? You got some degrees, don't you? Right? Make it work the way, and maybe it's not coaching. Maybe it's a guide. Maybe it's holding space, right? Does it have to be exactly like everybody else? Like, I combine the clinical with the power of getting people in alignment with their divine assignment. So that spiritual acumen with, I'm a spiritual transformation coach with the clinical.
Mhm.
So I could tell you, like, spiritually, there's some stuff you may need to clean out. But also, if there's trauma, people think I'm just not motivated. I'm just lazy. No, you've had 1,000 traumas that you haven't dealt with. And the world make you feel like you crazy. Oh, you haven't done that yet? Why don't you just do it?
Yeah.
Not knowing that you're struggling just to get up every day and put on
Mhm.
this face for everybody.
Oh,
Hopefully
I
this
love
frees
that.
somebody, because we don't have to do life and we know we learned that after COVID. The world kept going, although the buildings were closed. How did that work?
Mhm.
How did that
Yeah.
work?
I love what you said about your own personal passion that you should follow too, because if you do have a dream, it doesn't have to look like how someone else executed it or does it. Because what's going to drive you, fulfill you, and be able to ultimately let you give back the
Yeah,
most is when you're following your passion and path, which has to look different from someone else because you
absolutely.
are someone different. Yet we want to take almost the cheat code route of, oh, this is what they did. This is their playbook. I'm going to do that and not have to do the hard work to tailor it to what is my specific path. But
Yeah,
that's where the real, I think, beauty comes from is when you make it yours and
yeah.
live into it and fulfill it and become your best self.
Yeah. And it's almost counterintuitive, Aaron, because you think you're taking an easier path, but that's not your gift. So it's actually
Mm,
harder.
yeah,
Whereas when you do it your way is going to be easier and your way would be harder for that person.
a
Again, you
hundred
have that
percent.
secret sauce that only you have. I don't have that sauce that you have. You don't have my sauce. We may have similar sauces, but yours might have a little bit more picante. I might have a little bit more, you know, uh, ocean salt or something, Himalayan salt. I don't know. But it's gonna be a different type of sauce. It ain't gonna taste the you ever somebody try to remake somebody's dish and it either is better or worse, or you know what I mean? Or it's just like they're both really good, but they're different. I don't think anyone ever replicates exactly someone else's cake, right? So somebody be like, oh, for your husband, you're trying to make this cake that reminds them of their moms or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's similar, but it's not. And maybe it's not my mom's cake, right? It's like, oh, it's a good try. It's close. But yeah, that's not your sauce. So it's going to be harder for them to do your stuff. And it's going to be harder for you to do their stuff. Do it your way. Do it the download that you received in the message, do it the way you received that. Some people get it in their dreams. Some people get it just by, being practicing mindfulness, right? I listen to a lot of Eckhart
Mm,
Tolle. I just went and saw him in DC. When you have mindfulness, you see things that you would have never seen. So I'm in there in the DAR, Daughters of the Revolution, Constitution Hall. I've been there a million times. Comedy shows, plays, concerts, all kind of stuff. Until I went there and saw Eckhart Tolle, I never realized how beautiful that structure is. The detail. So you could be living somewhere and every day you've lived there for 20 years and you don't see the beauty of it. It's right in front of you right now. It's not tomorrow or somewhere else. It's right here. It's how you see it
mhm.
today. So.
I love it. Well, I do want to ask you this last question before we
Okay.
have to sign off, which is you've had such an amazing storied life and all the experiences. I'm curious what if you could go back and tell, your late 20, 30-year-old self anything, what would that be?
I've been asked this question many, many times, and I always give like a different, depending on the nature of our conversation and the energy.
Mhm.
Based on our talk today, I would say to do it your way. You know how that
Mm.
saying by what was it? Was it Whopper? Was it Burger King? Have it your way.
Yeah.
I would do it your way. Period.
I love that. So good. Malaysia, thank you so much for coming on and sharing so many great stories and advice for us and
Thank
inspiring other
you.
women. And where can people find you at?
Thank you again, Erin. This has been such an enlightening conversation. I felt like I talked so much too.
I love it. It's the
I
best.
was running my mouth. When I get in it, I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
but so I'm on most social media platforms. I'm highly active on Instagram, Malaysia H Harrell. We're on TikTok, LinkedIn. And then we have two websites, malaysiaharrell.com, especially if you want me to come in for speaking engagements or workshops or retreats, and Blissful Life Consulting for the mental health and also corporate wellness. And also if you want to do retreats for big organizations. So yeah, I just love what I do. I'm blessed to have the opportunity to do it. And again, tomorrow's not promised. So for me to be arrogant enough to think that I have another day, that's just not the way to do it. Again, and look out for God Has My Six. I will be putting that all up and people will be able to follow the official launch. And I think anyone who wants to transform their life from the inside out and the outside in, because there's some things that you have to do on the outside too. This is the book for you. Not just people who are in darkness, but people who actually have been holding on with a thread, who are functional and just doing it just to get it done, who actually need to release some things so that they can now remove that mask and live, authentically. And then that's when their freedom is going to come.
Well, Malaysia, thank you so much again. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for your service.
Thank you.
And so excited for your book that we'll be looking out for
Yes.
and for the retreat.
Yes. Thank you so much, Erin. And congratulations on all the work that you're doing with your podcast. And I look forward to connecting with you again.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Find Your Fuel. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how this story resonated with you and anything else you'd like to hear more of in the future. And if you want to support us, please write a review. It's super helpful in getting new people to discover the show and help other women find the fuel to live their best lives.